Hello, you are listening to the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I am your host, Adrian, and today I will be talking about Blueprints, The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1, and more. Afterwards, be sure to subscribe to be notified future episodes are released and show your support by liking and leaving a comment. Thank you for joining. And now we are back on another great Monday. It's just getting through April. We are getting through these showers and this rain, and soon we're going to be in the nice, sunny summer. And even better, Summer Game Fest. I mean, summer's becoming my new favorite time of the year, my new favorite season, actually. It used to be winter, but now with, a majority of the game announcements happening right around the summer, bigger conferences happening across this time of the year, spring into summer. I think that's when we get a lot of the big video game announcements, and I love it. I call it my Christmas. This is my Christmas. This game of the year. Those are my Christmases, me personally, my birthdays. But anyways, we have a decent amount of stuff to talk about. A lot has come out throughout the week. A lot of stuff had come out specifically about what is, the big elephant in the room, the Switch. That's what we're all waiting on, right? Because there's a limited time frame for this release now to for these pre-orders to be coming out and all this stuff. Only June 5th, I think, is when the console is supposed to be in our hands. We have just under 2 months. We're losing time here, and Nintendo hasn't done anything with the U.S. Canada kind of pre-orders with these tariffs, and we're just waiting on that. It's very, very odd that they would even bother having the whole event and their announcement on this, you know, in this time. Maybe it's bad timing just on their part. Maybe it's very actually bad timing. But you would imagine they want to push it for the rest of the world because now it's going to be very skewed if everywhere else is getting the Switch and nowhere in America is. I personally I really want to try and get it. I had the Switch online for quite a bit. I had it for at least a few years, so I imagine that it's, that counts for something when it comes to the pre-orders, and then way more than 50 hours on a lot of games. So I think on the Nintendo side of their pre-orders, I'm probably, got a decent chance of getting a console. I also signed up on the other sites as well, right? GameStop, Best Buy, Walmart, Amazon, all those other ones. So we're just waiting. Still surprising that it's a early release this time around, right? It's June. June's pretty early. Who can say whether or not that's a good time for the console to come out just because it doesn't really have launch games. There's Mario, that's really just it. And I think later on we're getting Donkey Kong, but speaking of their launch games, right? They're getting a lot of backlash for how they're handling their little tutorial game. And as a big fan of the Wii, right? I loved the Wii. I went through many versions of the Wii. My Wii was broken because of a Mario Galaxy update, and I had to send it back to specifically Japan many times, more than two times, just so they can refurbish it or something and give it back to me. And it had an issue where like the audio would just click out, and then the game after a loading screen it would just freeze, right? Smash Bros did that, Galaxy did that. Yeah, it was really, really awful. But what also came on the console, and then on disc form, right? There's no like preloaded games, right? This game on disc was Wii Sports, and I remember Wii Sports being a like revolutionary kind of included package when it came to just a console. Now I knew nothing about that, right? I was like 8 when that console came out and when I got it, but I remember that having that, including Mario Galaxy at launch, and then the Wii Sports included. That's an awesome addition, and you get these games that showcase the weird, wacky controls that were the Wii U nunchucks. Totally fine. I think overall that was a pretty good decision. I think the Wii relatively kept Nintendo thriving for a while. The Wii U was a different blunder, and now we have the Switch. The Switch is where we are now, and their game, I don't remember the name of their game it is, but it's the Welcome Tour, right? Their Welcome Tour game, which seems pretty fun. It's only like $10. It You should put it into the console. There's no reason to make us pay for that. Like how much was Wii Sports to make? Was it also worth $10? I don't know. I don't know how much Wii Sports goes if you try and find it third party right now. But the Welcome Tour seems pretty cool. I'm really interested in it. So I'm probably going to front the $10 to talk about it in the podcast, see how it is in terms of usability on the Switch. I want to see if it does a good job of, listing and providing ways to understand all the features and functions of the Switch 2, and it should also be relatively fun. I mean, we're paying $10 for this. So like I think there're going to be like some mini games, some smaller stuff for it, and I kind of would have thought this would have been their like PS Home game. It kind of felt like it had that kind of MMO kind of social hub-esque. And honestly, if they did something like that, that would be way better. That would make this game probably far more appealing. As I think it has mini games like speed golf, dodge the spiked balls, and something about physics demo, which seems cool, right? Very much in line with like the Astro's Playroom thing that came with the PS5. I liked that. That was really fun. I still got to play Astro Bot. I will in the future, but hopefully we're gonna get more Switch announcement news stuff soon, more specifically for the pre-orders, because that's really just I'm waiting on, right? Until I get a Switch, it's kind of like halted here for the podcast. It feels pretty sad not having like a guaranteed console coming to me, but I'm gonna try my damnedest to do it. Otherwise, we're gonna be talking about a whole bunch of other stuff, right? So Power World had a interview with its, I think it's creative director. The laptop's being a little slow, and it's with the communications director, which is totally awesome, John Bucky Buckley, and it's a pretty good interview. I've been checking out, but I personally I want to go back to Power World. I haven't played much of it. Yeah, I haven't played it since before all the updates, and I think that I'm only really invested in this game's history because of the shitty backlash that Nintendo put onto this game, and whether or not they're still dealing with that, I really don't know. I haven't followed on it. I don't know if they paid into it or did anything to make it go away. I'm on Power World side with this 100% of the way. It's a cool interview. They talk about what they're gonna do for the future of the game, things like backlash and online struggle, all kinds of stuff. Ultimately, I just think that's pretty cool. I may be glazing on the Switch and how much I want it or anything like that, but I don't like Pokemon. I think Pokemon nowadays is just not it. Pokemon ZA. You talk about a triple A Pokemon game in the year 2024. If you told 8-year-old Adrian what that would have been like, and you give him Pokemon ZA or Legends Arceus or anything like that, he'd throw it out. He'd throw that game away. He would. He really just would. So I personally, even though it's a very different game than Pokemon, I think that its vibe is totally there, and I'm here for it. I want to see Power World do really well. That's just me. I can't believe I'm talking about this again. I can't believe I'm still talking about this because this is like a 10-year-old issue. So Ubisoft put out a game called The Crew, and it was like a MMO style racing online game. Pretty awesome. I liked it. A lot of other games have copied its formula now. Um, but ultimately, it was one of those online service games where all the content was online and everything like that was just it can be taken away from the players if it's brought offline. That was a big thing a few years ago. I don't remember the dates. I think The Crew came out like 2014. They made a sequel, The Crew. But either way, Ubisoft is continuously saying that they're providing things like just licenses to these games and things like that. And I understand like a license to use the service, but I think maybe just taking the product offline because Ubisoft's going under. They're done. Then we're never going to see them ever again after Shadows. So I don't know if we're ever going to do something with letting somebody else run those servers, like some third party company. But I think if you're not going to do that, just put the content online and let people run their own servers with all the content there, regardless of who paid for what. I just think it's pretty disgusting that we're still talking about that. Like if you're not going to put it online, you shouldn't have any right to say whether or not people want to own what they bought or not. I think the service should still be out there and providable. I paid for a disc version of The Crew when it came out. So like I have a version of The Crew that I can't own on like disc. So we're here now. I'm never gonna play that game again, but the next online racing game, I will play it. Like Mario Kart for the Switch. That's where we are. Mario Kart is still kicking and The Crew couldn't last because Ubisoft, can't get their shit together. I see games like Destiny being an issue like that. Um, I think COD has like story mode, so I wouldn't say COD. World of Warcraft, in my mind, like Final Fantasy, those MMO games are kind of like the same thing, but I think that maybe in those larger scoped realms, they already have ways where you can have independent servers or something like that. Even if those games go down in like 100 years, I don't ever think they will. Hopefully they don't. A Another article from IGN. This one's for Helldivers 2, which is awesome because they're still kicking. Apparently, they're teasing something with a Warhammer 40K collaboration. I think that's definitely the way to go. Add some longevity to the game. I don't know if it's going to be like a creature or if it's going to be like just basically just skins for the players and their characters. But I think that's great that Helldivers is really still getting a lot more content and stuff like that. I don't think it should go the route of a third game anytime soon. I think it should probably try to make this a more rounded out experience and then transition slowly into maybe a different kind of Helldivers, larger scope game, not just, patching this game and then being like, oh, we're just going to make this game into the third game, just like Path of Exile. Uh, Another Switch article, but I don't know if this has been changed, but apparently the GameCube controller that comes with the Switch that you can buy as like the new version of a controller only works with the GameCube classic games, which I think is pretty gross. I don't know. They'll probably change that. I feel like we should start becoming a more modern, uh, advanced gaming industry where we have mappable buttons for all all systems, all of them, just mappable buttons for everything. Because I was playing Final Fantasy again and trying to use the controller and mapping out some of these buttons is just it's just horrendous. It's awful. So it locks like certain buttons to only certain features. I think that we should just start allowing all the controllers to be just usable for these accessibility features. It shouldn't be like locked to one side or the other. Even like the analog sticks, even the touchpad stuff. I don't know. I feel like it's to me it's just more annoying to have to be finicking with controllers that only work with certain games. And now in the year of 2024, it's like if I plug it in, I should be able to map buttons to it relatively pretty easy, regardless. I feel like even now the different controller stuff is getting pretty obnoxious just because now I have Xbox controllers with work with PC, which is awesome, but now those don't work with the PlayStation stuff. But now the PlayStation stuff does work with PC in some cases, but none of these controllers work with the console. So one day we're just gonna become a homogenous cloud society where games are just streamed to our systems, our TVs. Eventually, that will be the future. Can't say it won't be. I'm sure PC will still be around eventually, but who could say? The last article that is really relatively important or concerning is the 11 minutes of Outer Worlds 2 gameplay. Now, I think that Outer Worlds 1, we played it just because this announcement of this game, and that experience is not the same, in my opinion, as like a Fallout or even like the Skyrim Elder Scrolls experience. It's still relatively fun sci-fi romp, and I think that what was shown off in the 11 minutes doesn't justify a sequel of this like paradigm, this genre. I don't think so at all, right? I understand that this um, series has history behind people with like the Fallout New Vegas franchise, which is awesome, right? That's cool that they're overlapping in that way. But I feel like their way of putting out this experience hasn't advanced in over 10 years, right? Fallout 3 is over 20 years old, just about to be 20 years old, I believe, 2008. I think it came out. So we're getting there. And, Fallout 4 is kind of an okay experience. That's the more modern, like the first person side. I would say definitively it's probably Skyrim. That's the more popularized overall experience that hasn't been advanced. And I think that until Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, we're never going to see anything even close to what should be a modern kind of experience for this first person RPG stuff. And also, I don't think they showed off anything regarding ship combat or ship traversal or how you get to anywhere with the ship or anything like that. But even to that next degree, Bethesda, I think owned by the same company, and also worked on the same types of games. Fallout made Starfield, and Starfield has ship combat. Starfield has, maybe some more modern, cool, even sci-fi game mechanics that would be really interesting in a space game. Doesn't seem like the Outer Worlds has that. At least the Outer Worlds 2. That doesn't seem like it's like, why are we getting these parallel games that aren't really advancing their genre in any way? It's just like, oh, we'll just stick to our guns and stick to what we know and what makes us good. I don't know. Ultimately, I'm a little less lackluster. I'm a little less enthused to play the Outer Worlds 2 now, just because of what was shown off in the little levels of gameplay. I would have rathered, um, honestly, Elder Scrolls 6. I think I'm just completely over this game now. Just after watching the gameplay, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be that kind of experience now that we in 2024. Yeah, so the Outer Worlds just seems like it's another sequel to a game that nobody really wants. I never really wanted in the first place, but I was excited to see what was maybe included. But now it's like, oh, they're not even trying to like make themselves even comparable to what Starfield had. Like they still had ship customization and combat. Like those two are pinnacle for a spacefaring game of some sort in any fashion, in any sort of way. I don't know if they're not going to show that off later on or anything. Speaking of the Elder Scrolls, I've been playing a Elder Scrolls RPG with my friends for over a year now, right? We just had our um our like 63rd session, and coincidentally, last session was the anniversary of a player death where a character died, and now my character is dead. So on the same day a year ago, April 8th or so, two of our players died, two of our characters died, and now it's my turn to make a new character. So the first character was Jadato. He was a Khajiit, if you don't remember. And it's been really fun. It was a Khajiit monk. We got up to level 9. That's where we are right now. And the new character that I'm making will be level 9 as well. So it was cool playing a monk. Never played a monk before. And playing Khajiit was really fun. We got a lot of stuff done with Jadato in terms of the game itself. We did a lot of just story stuff for the party. This overall main story, which is awesome. It's involving like some long forgotten king, and it's taking us all across Tamriel, which is sick. So I'm thinking this time we're gonna do an orc blacksmith. I don't know if we're gonna dual class yet or anything like that, but blacksmith, something like that. Just get that out of the way. And yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna be pretty fun. So yeah, I don't know how long the Elder Scrolls game is going to be going on, and we also do a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game. So those are the RPG games that we're doing right now. I in the future want to run either Batman or Dune, right? I'm thinking Batman or Dune is what I want to do at some point with my friend or something like that. But time is difficult to find nowadays. It's hard to find the time. Speaking of time, there's one game that I've been playing that kind of, I feel like wastes your time, and it doesn't really feel like it's rewarding good decision making or even like progress, as far as I can see. And I've only played this game for about what it would equivalent to 12 days. This game is called Blueprints, and it's like a puzzle roguelike. Every time you fail, I'll say fail because there's no like dying or anything like that, but it's like every time you fail, you restart the day, and you have to, well, not restart the day, but like it's the next day. So you go into the next day and you got to restart. But the house that you're exploring, I'm not going to go into too much details, but the house you're exploring, the rooms reset and every day. So you just got to rinse, repeat, find the map layout, right? Just build it as you go and find items. Overall, the gameplay loop I think is pretty enjoyable. I just have issues where it really feels like it wastes my time because there's moments where it kind of locks you into a certain state and you don't really have any way to combat it, way to, negate it for the most part. There's some side stuff, but I really don't feel like there's enough to warrant replaying this game a lot. And I haven't finished this game. I haven't, so I don't know how truly in depth the runs get or anything. But to summarize it, you get into the game and you start exploring the house. And when you open a door, it could be locked, but mostly if like the beginning rooms, they won't be locked, so you can open them and they're random. You get one of three rooms to pick from. You pick one of the three rooms, you choose that room, and that room might have an item or a puzzle or something to help you progress. And each room takes like a step to get into. You have a certain number of steps to explore the house, and you can increase that with like items or other kind of stuff. Ultimately, there's moments where like the game will give you room choices with not enough doors or no doors, or maybe like a lock and then you have no key or something like that. And I wish I had just gameplay specifically for here just to show off, but I just haven't gotten to record it or be online. Maybe I'll try this weekend, just be online, be beating that game and get some recording for the next episode or something like that. But ultimately, I was still really intrigued by this game just by seeing it announced for the first time. Um, and I was like, oh, it seems kind of pretty cool. Just a little trailer that I saw. It was like a week ago during like the launch or whatever, and I was like, this seems pretty fun. I was willing to pay for it, but nah, it is on PlayStation Plus Pass or whatever. So like, I'm playing this game for free, and I don't really want to like be too nitpicky for it because I feel like this game nowadays this game will probably be like within, in my opinion, a $10 to $20 range. That's just what I would say. But I haven't finished it, so I can't really say what that would be. But I didn't pay for it. I don't know what the price is for it. I'm not really gonna look online. Like, I don't really care what the price is for it. But like, it's free on PSN. That works out for me. I already paid for that. But I think if you like puzzle games, I think if you like uh maybe somewhat frustrating games, this one could be the game for you. I find it a little frustrating. I find it frustrating when like I have one door and this is the only door I can really open, and then when I open it, it's two bedrooms, one that I can't access because I don't have a gem, and then it doesn't matter because both of them don't have doors. Yeah, all I can say is that I'll eventually get to the end of this game at some point, probably during the rest of the day while I work, and then see what the ending is like. I want to see what the ending is like. It's because it's kind of a mystery. I don't want to go into too much of the story. Just 'cause I feel like you should go experience it. The story is part of the puzzle and experiencing that. So if I tell you anything about it, it's just kind of gonna ruin it. And besides Blueprints, I think I'm just going to jump back into Final Fantasy 14. Mentioned it a little bit ago in the episode, and I've just, been really wanting to kick back into that game and get as far as I can, and probably make that the main game for now as you focus on a lot of other things. So leveling up a lot of characters in that game is pretty difficult, but I find waiting for the duty roulette system a lot easier now with a lot more things to do now that I have a lot more classes, a lot more quests, and I understand a lot more of the side aspects of the game a lot more. About 400 hours in that game, almost 500. Yeah, last time I checked it was like 20 days plus total game time, on this kind of alone, right? Not the first one on before Reborn, the official Final Fantasy 14 I played, and that was so fun. Wow, still love this game, still love it. And I even downloaded Elder Scrolls Online because of the game with my friends, the Elder Scrolls Online game. I remade an orc. I just wanted to create an orc, see what it's like, play around in the game again. I don't know if I'm going to continue with it because there's a lot of stuff in Elder Scrolls Online that I like about it, and there's really a lot of it that I dislike about it. So I really don't necessarily enjoy playing the game a whole entire bunch, for the most part. But I honestly, I just really want to go back and play Final Fantasy 14. That's probably what I'm gonna do after beating Blueprints and getting this episode done. Is just go play Final Fantasy 14. I want to start streaming it, see what we can do with some of you guys, see if we can get a free company going. Because I don't got much to do. I just want to grind out those quests, finish all that. Because like I said, time is of like the essence, and I've been feeling like I should start focusing on Final Fantasy 14 as like the main game for now, and everything else just be a side game. That's kind of what I am thinking about for the future nowadays. It's very very difficult, being like, oh, now I got to play all these games and do all these comics and do all these books for the podcast. But it's like, I'm just gonna take my time, right? Do like a series or a certain stuff for the podcast all at once, and we'll just see how the world takes me, because I'm gonna talk about all kinds of stuff that we're doing, all kinds of stuff. I think it's gonna be really fun. there's a lot of things I want to focus on talking about in the podcast here in the future, and one of them is like the things that I complete, and one of those is being the Dune book series. I never finished the main series by Frank Herbert, and we're doing them again, right? We just did Dune last week. We talked about it. Now we already talked about like the movies before, so we didn't focus a lot on the Dune book because that's pretty much here or there, right? I think if you're gonna read it, go read it. But Dune Messiah, a different kind of story. It's much more like you see a bigger divide in the main characters because I think that the idea of like one duty and like your position to like your boss or even your family, and then like whether or not you're believing into like whatever might be a prophecy or what you might think are visions and becoming like a deity, those are rippling effects that happen throughout the characters of not just Doom Messiah, but the rest of the franchise, the rest of the series, which is really, really awesome. And I think that a Dune movie for Dune Messiah would be super sick. I think seeing a lot of these characters return and be put in these situations again would be even better. So we don't really want to go with like spoilers because I think that you guys should go read these books. And I'm on Children of Dune. This is as far as I've gotten in the franchise, so I don't know where we are. And I'm in the middle of the book right now. I'm like page 150 or 170, and I'm at the part where the twins are in the desert and they were just attacked by these like tiger things. That's as much of an explanation as I'm going to give of where I am in the book. It's pretty awesome. I think it's cool having these other characters give these kind of weird, omniscient kind of uh, ideas that everybody else is like really afraid of. They're really afraid of these powerful characters, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I really just am. So Dune has been a franchise that's been pretty popular lately. It's even getting an MMO, right? That's why we're reading these books again, is to play the MMO and when it comes out. I found out it's $40. $40 for like early access. I might do it, or I think $60 for like early access. So I might get it. Who could say? It comes out in May. So if I finish the franchise before the game like comes out proper, then I'll definitely do that as like my reward. Do that to myself, just get that out of the way because I really want to play it. I think it's gonna be really fun, even though I've seen that it's pretty lackluster in no Fremen. To me, that's a crime. That's a sin to not have the Fremen in a Dune centered game. So I don't know if they're going to come out on like a later as a class to play as. And obviously when they do, I will play it again from start. Whole new game. It'll be an entirely different game in my opinion, maybe. But I'm just excited. So I've been in MMO mood. So obviously we're just trying to kick up and get as far into the other MMOs as we can to prepare for the Dune one. I think it should be really exciting. We also finished the Dune Prophecy TV show. What a fun one. If you like Game of Thrones, go watch it. It's just the same thing, just the space setting. It's quite literally the same thing. Less combat, far less kind of combative moments, but I think there's some pretty good tension there. Um, Not a whole lot about like resource politics, I would say, but more about like secrets and that duty again, just what we were talking about, you know, Dune Messiah before, and I really liked it. I think Dune Prophecy was actually a really good show. I think it just in line is the same as the newer movies, even though I think the book is better than the two movies. So ultimately, apparently the shows take inspiration or like set after specific events in a prequel trilogy called The Great Schools of Dune. I have some of the other prequel books and some other media for Dune, so maybe if we have time, we'll get into some of those at some point. Until then, let's talk about something that I have been so dying to wait for. So dying. Because I think what's gonna happen is next week we're gonna see the same thing that happened with the game, and I'm talking about The Last of Us. I'm talking about The Last of Us season two that came out. Episode one dropped on HBO. Watched it last night, and man, for the people who don't know, uh, you're gonna be so surprised. Like if you didn't play the games, if you didn't grow up playing the games, I feel like you're gonna have the same reaction as the people who played the second game when it first came out proper. and we're gonna have such big backlash for it. I can't wait. I can't wait. I hope they do it. I hope they do a lot of the stuff in the games, one for one. And that's the thing here, right? So this isn't a spoiler because we've already known that The Last of Us season one took liberties with how they told the story of the first game. Not everything is one to one with this season. Season two is not the same exactly as season one or as part two of the game plays out. Part two obviously starts out just pretty um in like the snow caps, right? This we get a little more scenes with some of the other side characters, which is awesome. And then even some clicker zombie nonsense is even teased and shown off before we even see it properly in part two, which is awesome. I think it's so sick. This this show is cool. I really like it. Last of Us should have always been a show. Like, I think Last of Us first game is not as great. It's just kind of like an Uncharted game, less actiony. Part two is far superior. Part two is a video game. Part two is a real video game. Even part one, the game had like multiplayer. The multiplayer is fine. I hear that the multiplayer is like really good, but I think like the overall experience of the first game is completely overshadowed by part two, and the stories for those games, right, they're very good narratively, they're very well written, and not all the time do you need video games to tell stories. You don't need a good story for a video game, you don't need that. But it's really telling when you have people consider mediums like video games not art, but then they have these kind of stories by people who make art, right? Just humans who make these things, and then they make it and it becomes so beloved that it becomes a movie or a TV show or whatever. I think it's really funny. So, you know, Last of Us, whether Goddess, it could have been a TV show years ago. Um, what it is now, I think it's really special. I think it's really good to see a video game adaptation become, one of the most beloved TV shows on the planet by, miles. So hopefully that same kind of love can stay the same, even with some upcoming events. If you haven't played the games, I'd recommend go play the games if you're a video gamer, just because the games are fun. The games are more impactful. There's a lot of moments in the games where you feel like you're on an adventure, and the show doesn't even necessarily give you that kind of feeling. Like this show, we already kind of have an idea of what the um dynamic and the setting of the world is. So you don't need to show that. And that's awesome. They don't do that. They don't give us some long spiel of what the world was, but they insert us into a dynamic of the main characters that's not necessarily skewed, but I think you kind of got to interpret a little bit if you already knew a little bit of one, the previous story, and then the games. It kind of alludes to a lot of stuff narratively for some of these characters. I think it's pretty cool. But overall, I think what's really going to be very impactful for this show is whether or not it kind of gets the same kind of love or hate that the game did, because the game was so dividing when it came out, just because of the story and some of the characters in it and their choices, their actions. So like everything I'm saying is all narrative based. I will gloss and glaze over the gameplay from part two so much. I think part two's gameplay is so good. I want to play that game on the hardest difficulty at some point. I tried to play through. I got to not very far. So ultimately, I really want to see this show succeed. I think it's gonna be fun. We talk about that show every time it comes out. How many episodes is how many episodes of the podcast we're doing for the show? Absolutely, we talk about that every episode that it comes out. I'm in love with it. So ultimately, we gotta get going. This episode has to be put out, and then I have to go play Final Fantasy. That's really just what I want to do. So I will see you all next week. Peace.